Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, Legends. It seems like the space's naughty meme coin obsessions may have angered Santa a little bit this year, as we are seeing the markets just pulling back a little bit. I don't think it's all that bad yet. I'm not so worried yet. I'm not gonna lie. There's one thing that could be forming in the charts that would actually have me very concerned about the health of the macro trend of the market. I would even be willing to consider the possibility. I'm not saying it would be for sure, but I would be willing to at least consider it could be the end of the bull market in that case. I don't think that is the case, but I just want to go over a couple of warnings to look out for. And honestly, it would probably take about a month at this point to play out, even if it is going to. But that would be over here on the weekly chart. So right now, we're still holding this higher low structure. I've been talking about this for weeks now, where Bitcoin, basically, I want to see it hold above 91,000, just kind of the bottom of this red wick here. If we end up closing candle bodies below this level, what I personally think will happen is everybody will get very bearish. Everyone will be FOMO shorting into that. And then I think they'll get wrecked and we will bounce and get some sort of a reaction to that sort of a market structure break. And then people would end up getting so much FOMO as we traded into resistance once again. But what I'm looking for, and this is, again, guys, I'm not bearish yet. This is just very theoretical and something that I want to be cautious of, just because I'm starting to see a couple of red flags forming, that if the structure does end up breaking this support line here, that's where, to me, we're losing that uptrend of higher lows. Even though, yes, it's micro-analyzing, it's just kind of this little bit of structure, not a significant pivot point or anything, but it is kind of where we had our last order block, where we ended up finding support, pushed a little bit higher. I don't want to see us lose that level. If we do and we bounce up here, you can guarantee that the social media is going to be going nuts again. Crypto Twitter will be all nothing but FOMO posts and how we are now going straight to $200,000 and stuff like that. But if that happens, again, big if we lose that structure, what I think we would end up seeing is very likely just a bearish Stuber fib like that, where we would get that reaction, because a lot of people don't want to give time for a weekly to play out, but it would be no different than the 5-minute. If I got this type of a setup on the 5-minute, that's basically the short I take every time, right? XRP. I pointed out this short ahead of time on XRP on the 1-minute and the 5-minute in the altcoin chat. I pointed this out on the 24th, I believe it was, basically when we were down here and we were coming up to this level. And that's where I took a short. I ended up just kind of, when I looked at it, I got lucky with how close I was to the very top on that push. But basically, this is the resistance box I was looking at. And that structure would basically be the same thing on Bitcoin's weekly chart if we end up dropping that, right? So a lot of people get emotional when it's something like a weekly chart. They can't fathom those types of moves and how long they would play out. So if we start going back towards all-time highs after losing this support level, I think what we would end up seeing is the RSI. See, here's another thing that concerns me right now and why I say that we're starting to see red flags. I did not want to see the RSI lose this overbought conditions. I wanted it to stay up there, because in an uptrend, in my opinion, that just means we have a shit ton of buying pressure, a lot of strength. But what we have right now, and if we lose that structure, we could end up seeing some sort of this is basically my ideal. This is my favorite back tested pattern when it comes to double tops or looking for a short setup on a Stuber fib, anything like that. That's what I love to see as confluence. That's one of my favorite things. And yes, it doesn't play out every time, but I think when I back tested like 2 or 3 years of data on the 4-hour and the daily charts, that it ended up hitting like a 87% success rate or something like that. Of getting some sort of at least a range reversal and testing the bottoms of the range again. So that could be a very big move to the downside, and that would shake up the market, and a lot of people would be very upset if that happens. Again, this does not have to happen right now. This is just something that's on my radar if we end up losing this higher low structure around 91,000 US dollars. And then I want that to see that exact bearish RSI divergence basically mapping out or going along with that. So what this would basically mean, this signal down here, is since it's the relative strength index, If we end up breaking structure to the downside, getting a reaction, that's totally fine. The market loves to do that. But then we're approaching the same resistance that we couldn't break last time with significantly less strength. And that's why I love seeing that exact divergence. And honestly, if it doesn't play out at that point, then it's an easy invalidation, right? Like, honestly, what I'm looking at with this, and this is not financial advice, do your own research, form your own opinions. It's your own money at the end of the day. But what I'm looking at doing personally is, if we get that set up, I will be selling a bunch of my spot Bitcoin, and I will be seeing what happens from there. Basically, I'll be looking at buying some back at the lower end of the range and then laddering in as we drop down, if that's going to happen. But I would also treat it, you guys, that's not saying that, hey, I'm stubborn, I'm set in my way, that's the end of the bull market, I am instantly perma bearish. It's nothing like that. It's more so I would treat it just like any other trade. If I was shorting this on a shorter time frame with leverage, basically I would consider this my invalidation if we break above the range. And in that case, I would just buy back a little bit less of my position, and I'd consider it a lost trade. It's just a spot lost trade instead of a leverage kind of a situation. So that's how I'm going to be treating that if that happens. But then also on top of that, if we do end up getting that set up, I will be looking at shorter time frames and looking to short the hell out of that. And again, I'll have my invalidations. If it ends up getting invalidated and we break to the upside, then that's perfectly cool. Then at that point, I change my strategy at that time. But again, this is only if we end up losing that structure. That's just something that I want on the radar in case it happens, because it happened back here, guys. The reason I say this is where it happened last time. And we did go into sideways, even down a little bit. I mean, this was a fairly big pullback. When I got bearish on this exact signal last time, if it's going to happen again, we ended up seeing a 26% correction to the downside after I talked about that the first time. So that's a very significant move for a coin like Bitcoin, right? So it's not that it would necessarily be the end of the bull market. It could be. Honestly, that's just a strong reversal signal, but that can get invalidated at any time. The chart structure can change at any time. Find support down here, because I mean, Bitcoin's done a great job of building support on this macro time frame. When we had that 8-month ranging sideways, basically, that's a lot of structure there now. It's just that is a large move if that ends up happening. You know, if we get that structure break, pull back up to here, and we do get that move back down there, that could be more than a 30% correction to the downside. So just understand that even if the bull market continues, there can be, if we get the proper structure like that, especially on a weekly, you know, it would take months to play out, but the bull market does not need to play out tomorrow. Like everybody, you know, when you look at crypto Twitter and stuff like that, it's easy to get wrapped up in the whole, like, we're going to the moon right now or tomorrow or next week or whatever. And these things, especially on weekly time frames like this, you know, when swings start to change directions and stuff, they take a while to play out, right? So that's just something to watch out for. But again, that's all. So far, we are still bullish. As far as I'm concerned, I am still bullish unless we drop that 91,000 support. Only at that point is where I'm going to start leaning towards those bearish theories. For now, another thing to consider is we do have this nice bullish super fib. I've been pointing this out since my last stream as well. One thing that I really don't like about this, that's also got me a little bit concerned, is just that this super fib has already tried to play out twice. You know, we came back, we had our higher high on the 4 hour, pulling the fib from the lowest point between the two, right? If this is my high, this is my higher high. I'm pulling my fib from the lowest point between the two to the highest high. And that's why I have this purple box here. So that's my 786, 886. We already, and this is where it's important that even when they've played out already, I still think it's important to show them, is because I only really like to play them the first time for the most part, because I like that first move advantage kind of a thing, because if you keep testing those levels, then it's less likely that it's going to hold, right? I mean, the fact that we've already tested it a couple times and we're still having a hard time gaining momentum just looks like it's a little bit weak to me. So I wouldn't be as confident taking the long off that purple box again for a swing. Not to say that it's not going to work. That's just how I like looking at those fibs, and I more so trade them on the shorter time frame, so I see them pop up all the time anyways. But that's just kind of how I treat them. And the fact right now that we got a test right here, we did hit the first target there. So after it hits the first target, I really don't want to see us end up losing this box at that point. Otherwise, I'm going to think it looks very weak. But then we ended up actually coming back down, tested the box again. You could have technically played the same trade once again. But here we are struggling right after the first take profit again. So it hasn't actually even reached my 214 target yet. That's ideally when a full range kind of play out happens. That's the level I'm looking for. And the reasoning for that is basically it's the opposite, right? If I was to pull a fib from here, looking for resistance rather than support, so I'm pulling top to bottom of the range. Notice that the 214 just front runs the 786 a little bit. And then I usually front run my own targets a little bit as well, just to play it safe. But so that's how I kind of like doing that. So, I mean, it's still possible that it ends up getting a further bounce here, and we do come all the way up here towards that 104.3, somewhere in there. I think would be totally normal for where we've ended up finding support here. Just again, it's just got me a little bit concerned how weak the bounces have been, and just how we're really struggling to gain any momentum here, right? I haven't really looked at many indicators on the 4-hour yet. RSI, if we ended up kind of pulling into double bottom territory, filling the rest of this wick and getting a nice big bullish divergence on the RSI, something like that, in my opinion, that would look very good. But yeah, right now just looking a little bit weak. I want to see the trend master. We do have a sell signal. It is a higher sell signal. But I know a lot of you guys who have tuned into a lot of my streams, you know that I like to kind of look at this trend master indicator just to help me point out the trend, which way I should be looking at things. Obviously, when you zoom out, it looks obvious either way. But generally speaking, when I have higher trending sell signals, higher trending buy signals, I don't really like to play against that trend. And right now, even though that is a sell signal, it's technically a higher one. If we end up printing a lower buy signal here, I think that's a big warning shot fired. And I think that the next sell signal from this indicator would be, if the momentum was shifting, and that would be an early sign of that, in my opinion. Sometimes it gets very nice entries on something like that. So that's where I'd start looking for bearish Stubers on the shorter time frames and stuff like that to try and really pinpoint some tighter risk, higher leverage kind of entries on the shorter time frames. But yeah, I always like to look at longer time frames too, right? I mean, I'm mostly trading the 5-minute and the 1-minute, but I still like to have an eye on, you know, things like the weekly chart, the daily, not so much. I'm more so, and I probably should watch it more, but I mostly go with the weekly and the 4-hour. And then from there, I kind of zoom into where I want to play my entries. I did take, I don't know if you guys saw that in the Bitcoin chat. I know Coins was in there. I ended up taking a bit of a long. I was playing this Stuber fib, looking at it the opposite way, right? Like, I'm in a short on XRP and it's playing out great. I've taken profits on that position, but I still have some running. I decided, as a bit of a hedge to that, and just with good reason, because this is one of my favorite strategies, is I did hit this Stuber fib entry here at the blue dotted line. I actually caught two of my entries. I had an entry along the 786 and one at the 886. So my average entry is at this blue dotted line here. And I've already hit one of my targets. So I'm not updating my stop loss yet on this. So I can still take a loss on this if we end up losing this range. But you know what? If this basically... So here, let me just show the structure here where this changed, in my opinion. Let me just map out how I ended up pulling this fib, because this was not that long ago. But basically, we had this downtrend, right? We obviously had this very steep correction to the downside. We set this, and again, this is very micro analyzing for a lot of people. I totally understand that it's not for everybody, but this is how I love looking at structure and how I end up pointing out the ranges nice and early. Is we would have, so since we're in this downtrend here, this is where we got any form of relief, right? So that's a low, but we end up setting a lower low. Highest point between the two is my lower high. So we never broke it, right? After that, we end up setting another lower low here. So the lowest or the highest point between the two, that never changed the structure here. That's still the lower high that I want to break. But then we end up setting another, we got a little green candle there. So another lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. So if you really micro analyze, this is where the structure actually broke here. And so that's where I'm considering this a valid low, a valid swing at some sort of a hedge long, since, like I said, I'm already in a short on XRP anyways. So if this ends up getting invalidated and we break these lows, then it's a nice tight stop loss, and my XRP short will continue running the way it's been running. So I'm totally okay with that. But just as this is, it's a nice Stuber entry. So that's why I ended up taking a long not long ago here. I entered back here, but it looks like we just retested it. What is that? Within the last 15 minutes or so. So then, yeah, how it is right now. So that's where we had our bullish structure break. And after that, that's where I basically, so that's my pivot low. And then I just basically chase the price, right? I'm chasing the price. And look, there's other times on smaller ranges where you end up seeing, right? If that's my high, notice we do pull back to that 786, 886 target right here. And yes, these are very tight targets, but you would have your first target there, second target there, right? And it even went a little bit higher. But if we just continued pulling my fibs from there, that's where I have my current purple box, right? So that's why I have this Fibonacci laid out. That's why I've picked this as my range currently. If we end up setting another higher high, then I can make this range a little bit bigger, right? But this is how the range currently is. And that's where I look for those pullbacks into the 786, 886 fib pockets. So that's why I ended up taking that long. If it gets invalidated, that's totally fine. Trading is not about never taking losses. Everybody takes losses. It's just that it's about controlling losses, right? And that's where I love using the Fibonacci so much, because it's so structured, and it's waiting for that pullback, right? Because a lot of people would see that, hey, we broke some of this structure here. Look at that. We had some resistance that got tested 3 times here. We end up breaking that. We're going straight to the moon. So let's FOMO in right at the top, right? A lot of people love looking for those breakout plays. But more often than not, we see some sort of a pullback. And that's where I love seeing those pullbacks, the 786, 886. So even if I end up having this theory invalidated that we could go to the upside here and reverse this move to the downside, it's just basically a way of having tight invalidation, right? So if this, let's say right here is where I decided this is looking bullish, it's looking like we're going to climb and reclaim all this downside move. That's kind of the signal, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's time to enter right now, right? And that goes back to my theory with the weekly chart as well. How I was saying that, if we end up losing that weekly level, I would still expect some sort of a bounce, and that bounce is going to be, in my opinion, it's going to trap a lot of people. It's going to be a bull trap, right? So we'll see how that plays out. We'll see how this plays out, right? But I would much rather, if you were looking at this as your bullish signal that, hey, I want to be in a long, your invalidation is way down here, right? Whereas same thing, if you enter here, you have the same invalidation. It's just obviously significantly tighter. So it's just risk management, right? Yes, you might not get that pullback into that fib pocket, but at least you have a bullish signal kind of working with you, and then waiting for some sort of a retrace rather than just FOMOing in right at the very top, right? Hopefully that all kind of makes sense. Oh, nice. We have filled up a little bit here. Oh, lots of people over. Hopefully you're all still in holiday mode. Hopefully you're all having a drink with me here. Cheers, everybody. Thank you for being here. I will check out some altcoin requests if you have any there. I'm just catching up on the chat here. I will check some altcoins. Make sure you let me know what time frame and what exchange you're looking at. Just so my indicators have the same signals and, the same prices. Sometimes exchanges have different prices and whatnot. I actually want to go and check on my XRP position here. Like I said, I entered on the 24th up here on this Stuber fib here, and this one was actually laid out. I actually caught this one. I wouldn't pull my fibs like this generally from this high here, but the ALGO master indicator with the auto, I don't know where that ended up printing, but the auto Stuber fibs on the ALGO master indicator ended up printing this. It doesn't show it now because it's on to different ones because that was a couple days ago, but it did have this one printed out. I laid one out over top of it just to kind of save it, and it played out beautifully. We came back up to this resistance. We even came up and tested it again, but then got a nice big move to the downside. And basically XRP has been in a downtrend for the last couple of days over the holidays here, and I caught that with one of these trade setups, right? So back here, basically, we lost a lot of structure when we ended up dropping this level here. But that doesn't mean that you're shorting at that level, right? That's a very bearish sign in the structure, in my opinion. However, you're still waiting for that retrace, and that's where, your invalidation is so much tighter. So I feel better about using higher leverage in a larger position if my invalidation is going to be so much tighter than if I would have entered down here, right? So that's the whole theory of, that's basically the whole strategy around trading Fibonacci's. You get you're getting your signal earlier, but then you're waiting for that retrace kind of a thing. And yes, you're going to miss some moves, but it's always safer. It's just about controlling those losses because they're going to happen. It's just a form of risk management. And I just love Fibonacci's because they're so structured. It really takes away the guessing work of, is this support resist level more important than this level? Or, should I be using wicks or candle bodies or average touch points or whatever? I find that everything's just so much structured with Fibonacci's. So it takes a lot of the guesswork out. But obviously everyone has their own trading strategies that works for them, right? And everybody sees things differently. Obviously do what works for you. This is just what I love doing and why I like trading fibs so much. What is this looking like? I just want to zoom out to the 5-minute on XRP here. So here's an example. Here's a live example. I guess it did just technically play out. But a perfect example of a Stuber fib here was we would have had this low, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. And this has not changed yet, right? Because, well, either that high, this high, whatever, either way. It's touching both of these. That would be the lower high structure that I want to see break before getting bullish. But even if that breaks, I would still expect some sort of a pullback, right? But at this time, since we have that structure where, hey, here is our bearish structure break, right? That's where we set low, lower low. I'll even make it red. Just notice this trade setup, right? If we pull from that lower high structure down to where the price bottomed out, look where we ended up finding resistance. Absolutely perfect laddered entries right there. I never took that one. Like I said, I've already been in one. But that was a perfect play right there. And as far as looking at the 5-minute, that was a nice move to the downside. Your average entry would have been somewhere in here. How much did it go down? It went down 1.5%. Your first take profit there based on this strategy would have been 0.8%. So with a little bit of leverage, yeah, that's still a nice move. As far as a scalp goes, that's just a beautiful setup there. Nice, quick, and easy and safe, basically. Obviously doesn't play out every time, but that's just a classic Stuber setup. And I can just kind of, once you start to see them, you start to see them all over the place. And it gets easier and easier to pick them out. And yeah, that's just one of my favorite strategies. So I know it's not for everybody, but I know a lot of people have been asking me questions about them and stuff like that. So I really like to show them. And I know it helps a lot of people just kind of understand that markets pull back even after structure breaks. It just kind of helps you keep a level head when you can understand it that way a little bit. Let me just catch up a little bit on the chat. Thank you for the stream. Was curious on my thoughts on short term on the rune chart. I will check that out in a second here. And seeing a lot of alts on the 4-hour printing sell signals, but where in the short term do you see moves to the downside possibilities? So I want to cross-reference your input with what I had in mind. Thanks, bro. Yeah, I will check out rune. I assume Binance would probably be best. Let's see. This is one I have not looked at probably literally in years. The 4-hour did print a lower sell signal, right? That's where I talk about with the Trendmaster, how sometimes where the like back here, I guess that never did play out. But yeah, there was a nice sell signal back here, ended up getting a nice dump after that even on the retest of that sell signal, it did play out nicely there. Something that's catching my eye right now is this would be one of those times where, hey, we have this low, lower low. That would be my lower high. So that's technically my bullish signal, but then waiting for a pullback into that Fibonacci pocket, right? So if I went something like that, notice where we ended up getting that immediate reaction off of. So it's very possible that, hey, you know what? We did have this break to the upside, and maybe the one thing I don't like is that we tested it again and kind of got a double top there. What are these saying? Yeah, I don't know. The structure on its own doesn't look so bad in my opinion. Technically, that is a Stuber fib as far as I'm concerned. That's testing the 786 for the first time after that structure break there. So, yeah, as far as nice tight invalidation, obviously, if you lose the lows, I always like to give it a little wiggle room myself. I know nothing about this project or where it's headed or anything like that, but just as far as basic market structure and fibs, that's how I like to look at them. So that doesn't look so bad. It looks weak, as in, you know, this M shape because of that double top. I don't love to see that. I would have much preferred if we ended up coming down and testing this box back here and then ended up taking off. That would have given me a lot more confidence. The fact that we came back down to this level, it is showing a little weakness, but again, it is the 786, so at least it's nice and tight invalidation as far as if you were looking for some sort of a dip to buy. I don't know if you're spot buying or leverage trading or what, but obviously better buying on a pullback with this. At least there's something in the chart here that shows that there's some sort of bullish structure, so you're not just kind of YOLOing into it. At least there's something showing that there's potential bullish strength there. I want to check what's the 1 hour looking like. Same thing, right? Even on the 1 hour, it's the exact same structure. There was no separate pauses in here. Anything still had that low, lower low. There's that bullish signal, right? Tested the 786. So, yeah, even as far as looking at laddering into it, you know, buying along the fibs. Again, not financial advice, just if this is something that you're looking at buying anyways, I totally see reason why it's at least at support, right? Rather than buying into resistance, at least you'd be buying into support. Even on the shorter time frame here, like really micro-analyzing this, technically there was this little structure break as well, right? Very micro-analyzing, but you guys know I love to do that. We had this low here and a lower low here. Technically that's the lower high structure. It was broken here. So that's another sign that, hey, maybe after this bullish break here, and now we're kind of reversing the little immediate downtrend we had here. So just another sign of potential strength there, in my opinion. I know not everybody likes micro-analyzing like that, but I love looking for when the swing itself is pivoting like that, rather than looking at the bigger pivots and looking at the bigger structure. I just like to play the immediate swings more so. I just find it's that, especially because I'm a scalper myself and I like to update stop losses quick and stuff like that. That's kind of the structure that I look for when I'm looking to protect myself, I guess, when I'm scalping. What's Trendmaster saying? On the 1 hour, obviously a much lower buy signal, lower sell signal. And again, then we came up, tested that sell signal, beautiful entry there because we had the lower trending buy signal, lower trending sell signal. That can be a very powerful strategy in itself in a trending market. It's beautiful how that plays out. And that's the thing, right? Trendmaster, it's designed for that. Beautiful indicator. Yeah, that doesn't look so bad to me as long as it holds its lows where it currently is. Basically, if it loses 437, I would start to have my concerns that it would be looking like might be taking a bigger tumble at that point. And it's very possible, right? We could be retracing a lot of these moves that a lot of altcoins had, like the bigger swings on the daily, for example. It's absolutely possible that, you know, even in a healthy type of market, it could still pull back significantly, in my opinion, because that's really the last pivot we had on the daily, the last big pivot in the market there. Basically where we found bottom after this big head and shoulders that played out. I think I see one right here. Yeah, see, you just start to see them everywhere. That here would be a perfect example of when this rune started looking weak on the daily. Is you can see that we had, again, micro analyzing, but even if you're going with daily structure, like the candle closes, right? We're setting a high, higher high, higher high. If you want to consider that the higher low, the highest place, that's basically where this little last red block here, our order block there, that's the last place that the bulls made a stand and basically pushed it higher from the bears. And so that's the structure we ended up losing, and notice that support flipped into resistance perfectly there. And on top of that, when we got that structure break, if you pull the fib and start chasing the price to where it ended up bottoming, then look where we ended up facing that rejection, right? So this is all kind of tying back to what I'm watching for on the weekly if we end up getting that structure loss, right? So you can see why I'm concerned if we end up losing this support level. That's the reason why I'm looking for that, is because we kind of see it all over the place. And that's so often just a warning about, you know, what's happening with the trend here. Same thing, right, with the RSI. And not even the preferred RSI divergence that I like. It looks the same, but I prefer it a little bit higher, it coming down from overbought territory there. But the same bearish divergence on the RSI going with that, right? So a lot of people were probably starting to get FOMO at these levels, but you broke the uptrend here, the immediate uptrend, and then you end up just testing that 786. And you're kind of getting up towards that resistance level with significantly less strength, right? Your RSI, your relative strength, is significantly lower. So why would you expect that strength to push through resistance that had already failed when it was stronger, right? So that's kind of the theory behind that. And yeah, that basically ties into my concerns with Bitcoin moving forward. But again, I think if that is to happen, I think it would take about a month to play out by the time we ended up getting back at these levels, because we need to actually lose that structure and then get up to that level. If we just go straight to that level from here, I have much different feelings about it because we never lost that structure. There was no change in that. So far we are still holding that. But it's always good to be ready, right? Because when we had that kind of price action back here for those 8 months, a lot of people got blindsided, and every time we ended up pulling up into those Stuber fibs is exactly where we'd get those reversals, and that's exactly where people were getting crazy FOMO, was always at those levels, and those levels were always where Trump or Elon or someone was going to go and talk about Bitcoin right as we were trading into the 786, 886. It happened over and over, and I know a lot of you guys were here for that when I was one of the only people bearish on the market in this range. But, you know, a lot of people were blindsided by that. And if we get that same structure here, that's what I would kind of be looking for. And again, obviously have invalidation levels. We end up setting new highs. Obviously, that theory's out the window, and it's straight back to Moon Boy Stew after that. And at this point, I am still more of a Moon Boy, right? I got to be clear about that. I know I've been talking about the bearish scenario quite a bit in this video or in this stream. But just understand that's just preparing ahead of time so that I can wrap my emotions around it when it does come, because it's very easy to let your emotions take the wheel if you're not ready for something. GME on Solana, Sam. Welcome, brother. I will absolutely check out. Oh, that's ass. Also got a nice rounding bottom there. Let's check out GME. Let's do it. Let's hop right into the G-Gens. That would be this one, I believe. Haven't looked at it in a week or so. I think it was the daily that I liked on it. Yeah, I don't know. It's still, again, it's one of those things where, hey, at least it did break some structure here. You know, it broke out of this range. So even though it's struggling right now, it looks to me like it's basically confirmed a new bottom, right? So let's check. I'm just curious in this case. We got very, very close to that 786. I'm willing to consider that a touch. Notice we did hit the first take profit already, that 0.5 fib. So, I mean, maybe that's all it got. But, I mean, you know, if the market's going to be healthy, if meme coins and altcoins and everything are going to trend to the upside, then, yeah, I see no reason why that couldn't be a nice support level. Again, better to be buying at support levels like this in nice tight ranges as opposed to waiting for a move like this and then deciding, oh, now I'll get into it. So if you're just looking for a meme coin gamble anyways, at least you're buying into support, right? Stu has now made more money shorting XRP than Ripple has made selling it. Well, I think that's a bit of a stretch, but I have been shorting XRP a lot lately. You know what? Actually, I did even long it a couple times. I'm not overly playing favorites. Well, no, I totally am. It is fun shorting XRP. It triggers a lot of people and it's funny. But yeah, I love shorting XRP because it loves to have those big violent moves to the upside, and then it loves to just slowly bleed out and totally reset the entire move, which is why everyone waited 7 years and then finally you know, a lot of people are going to be very upset with XRP if they end up round tripping it again after waiting 7 years to break even and then they do it again. I'm still not convinced that 80 cents is off the table. I think it could still happen. I actually want to look up that chart. I think it's my Bitstamp one. Yeah, again, everyone was getting very, very bad FOMO. A lot of bullish posts on Twitter. Everyone calling for ridiculous price targets on XRP right as we traded into that level. That's totally normal. That happens all the time. But the thing is, if this is going to play out, and it does not have to, you know, if the bull market all of a sudden kicks back into gear and it goes euphoric and This thing decides it wants to go parabolic. You know what? So be it. But it's so normal. If this was a 5-minute or a 1-minute chart, that's just a classic Stuber fib setup, right? And that's why I was warning about it on my Twitter right as we were about here, I think it was. Basically looking at this as, hey guys, like, I understand that it's got a lot of strength, but it did pump right into my favorite short setup. If this was a 5-minute or a 1-minute chart, I would be shorting this. We have not hit the first or the second take profit yet on that type of a setup. Obviously does not have to happen, and so much can happen in a weekly time frame. This would take a long time to play out, even if it does. But notice that 214 fib level that I like to use as my second take profit on those fib setups is down around 80 cents. So, even if it was going to remain bullish and set a higher low, I mean, I think it's very reasonable that XRP could drop down towards 80 cents. Not saying it has to. I'm not saying short it here and assume it's going to hit 80 cents. But I'm very open to the idea of that just being, and that goes for any coin that I love too. There's some coins that I hold bigger positions in, but if we get that kind of a move where, hey, we got a 400 or 500% move right into a Stuber fib, I'm not going to be dumb about it. I'm going to start taking profits rather than throwing leverage longs into resistance. I would rather be selling and taking profits at resistance and then buying back at support when it pulls back, right? So not saying this thing can't just moon straight to the upside, just saying that, it's always scary FOMOing into something after it's moved like that, and especially FOMOing in right at resistance. Assets always look strongest at resistance and look weakest at support. That's totally normal, but I'd rather be selling at resistance, buying at support. I usually like to use limit orders when I'm doing fib levels. Limit orders sometimes I wait and I watch and then I do market orders, but typically I like to avoid market orders because the fees are higher, significantly higher. And the thing is, it's when I'm playing trend lines and when I'm playing any sort of structure lines or anything like that, I don't set limit orders necessarily. Or at least I will set an alert and then I'll see how the price kind of reacts. I'm seeing how my trend lines and stuff are being reacted with. I don't set blind orders on trend lines. I like to see how the reaction is. However, when it comes to my Stuber fib setups, because it's a strategy that I've come up with, I know what the signal is where I've decided, hey, I want to be in the position, so I already know what my entries are, right? So I don't need that reaction because I've already got the reaction that I'm looking from the levels. But like this, for example, I wouldn't just be setting shorts along this resistance, or same on the other side. If we were going to pull back, I wouldn't just set a limit long on this level. I would more so want to see how the reaction is. GME, a 25% Christmas pump from Roaring Kitty tweeting. Lost like 11% of that today. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, that's the thing with meme coins, right? They pump, they dump. Yeah, nice big daily candle there, and basically an engulfing red candle forming here. This is one that I had posted in the group a while ago. The reason I like this one is obviously it has the chance to go viral because it's one of those dumb coins that could just gain a lot of traction. But also just how it was in such a tightly coiling consolidation here. A nice big, well, for one, rounding bottom or falling wedge. However you want to look at it, there's so many different ways that structure broke down here because it was such a tight consolidation. So to see that it's rounding like that, I mean, it's just one of those times again, right? I look at all meme coins as total gambles. This is basically VLT money. But I'd rather be buying at support levels like this rather than buying into it when it's way up, going totally parabolic, right? It's more so that, hey, down here, we technically broke some structure. Here's a perfect example, actually. I don't know how well it works on meme coins. I treat meme coins very different than leverage trading. But we could say that there was a structure break there, or even if we use this level here, technically we got a higher close above that. Either way, if this is our structure breaking, where have we pulled back to? Very close to the 786 there. But again, just that it's such a tight, consolidated level with that rounding bottom there. That's kind of what I'm looking for, buying support on things like that rather than FOMO. IQ, that's another one. Someone else in the group, Rocket, had mentioned this in the microcaps chat the one day, and that's when it was down here, I believe. And that night we ended up breaking this, basically same thing, right? Just that nice resistance that's been touched several times there. We ended up breaking that, flipping that resistance into support, and it just absolutely moonshotted overnight. So those consolidations are beautiful to see, and it looks like this thing is, it's doing it again, right? It's just forming a tight consolidation again. Obviously, if you're into meme coins and stuff, know the risks, understand that most of them go to zero. It's just a little bit of fun playing with these things with the low caps and stuff. But again, they're total gambles, but everyone loves to get their degen on sometimes. Yeah, see XRP still struggling since it, and again, this is, you could say it's very micro analyzing to be looking at it this way, but this is how the structure is, right? As far as the 5 minute goes, this is the range that I had laid out, and notice where we end up struggling, right? And market structure basically acts the same. The weekly, the daily, the 4 hour, the 1 hour, the 5 minute, the 1 minute, I treat it all the same. And that's why I have my concerns about the weekly chart if that certain structure happens, right? Ooh, Griffin, I am into looking at that. Oops. Oh, this is definitely not the oldest chart.
Grab the one off Radium.
What am I?
Yeah, the US one that you were down there at the bottom. Yeah, just grab that one.
Hedge fund something rather? This doesn't look right.
Oh, is that the Citadel one?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. There should be one that's got the US like flag near it on Grafane.
Oh, I'm struggling. Oh, here we go. There we go. You know how I get. Let's see here. What can I see for random? Ooh. That's a little ugly swing fail right there, but if we end up reclaiming that line again, I think it would be primed for a breakout. But that's the type of trend line where, see, I wouldn't have had random short orders set there, and it's not like I'm shorting this or anything, but this is just what I meant by waiting for confirmation on trend lines, is that, having a trend line like this on a 4 hour and then zooming in and seeing how the shorter time frames are reacting with that, when they end up showing that they're failing to hold that old resistance as support and they're just kind of wicking above and getting rejected, that's more so when I'm looking at pulling the trigger, so I'm not blind shorting into something like that. If it's just a trend line that's something like this that only has 2 touch points before, I definitely want to see how that third touch point is reacted with to see if that level is still significant or not. So sorry, totally random off topic there, but I just saw it there. So I would be looking at something like this more so now. Are you talking something like so? Or what kind of trend line are you looking at there, Zeus? Yeah, that's where I traded.
I don't necessarily look at trend lines. I was just looking at like the horizontal like support and resistance that we basically have at 17 cents. So just coming back down like into the mid range of it after breaking up past it.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't play a ton of trend lines, but I just meant more like the bottom of this like range that we've made up top here.
Yeah, and I would actually say same thing with the way I normally look at things would be that, hey, this was technically my lower low. This is the highest point between. There's my bullish structure break. So as long as we hold this low here, we should be bullish. Like, I more so like looking at that rather than trend lines as well. I would rather do horizontal and Fibonacci's than trend lines, but with certain setups, I'll still look at trend lines. But actually notice that this Stuber Fib right here would have played out already, right? Entries in here, hit the first target. That's just the close, obviously the 0.5 target or whatever, but we did get that immediate reaction off that level. So yeah, I would love to see that hold. This is one that I've been accumulating myself. I know a lot of us in the group have been. So yeah, I've basically, the last week or so, I've been shorting XRP, scalping shorts on XRP, and I've been using the profits to buy some Grafane. So hopefully it does things. But it sounds pretty cool. Like Zeus, I know you said that you were actually using the product, the AI product, and said it was pretty crazy. So that's very cool. And I know a lot of people here listening to this would know that I believe it's created by the Solana team, or the same people, some of the same people who created Solana. So obviously now they have a lot of capital to work with and that sort of thing. They obviously know how to push a product. So yeah, I have high hopes for that. I hope it does well. I mean, obviously it has already. Let's be honest. I'm late to the party on this. It's just one of those ones that, I think it's at around a $228 million market cap or something. So it's fairly well established, but still a pretty small cap on the grand scheme of things. So I hope it does well this market cycle, if this market cycle is going to continue, obviously. Yeah, I only traded on Jupiter for the most part. How's everyone doing? Who's having a drink with me, by the way? I'm just kind of freestyling some analysis at this point, so let's just
Mate,
have
I've
a
been
holiday
drinking
drink.
all evening.
What's that?
I've been drinking all evening already.
Perfect. I've been drinking all week.
Jeez.
It's been
I'm
good.
smashed.
It's been good though. I was scalping some Stubers over the week. I was kind of teaching a couple people how to do them. Some people I know,
As
and
always.
yeah, it ended up in the last 7 days. I ended up closing 100. Well, it says 100 positions. I think that means like how many take profits I had total. I don't think I took 100 trades.
Yeah,
Um,
that's why I assumed.
but it was like 70%. I was like, oh, that ended up pretty good. A little drunken scalping for the week. How are your holidays, everybody?
Too much food?
Yeah, I hear that. Good food though.
Yeah. Comfy food. Yeah.
Simon, good to see you. Yeah, definitely had some good food the last few days. Well, the last week, but back home now. Now I'm gonna order pizza tonight. Go back to normal. Why not finish it off with one more?
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, so far that
Why not order like your gravy and fries or whatever? What's it called again?
poutine.
Poutine. Yeah.
Man, it actually upsets me how much of the world does not have poutine. Like why? It's so easy to make. Why would you not? Why are you avoiding it? Everybody should have it at all times, every meal.
Back some poutine.
It's so good.
I mean, is it not like fries with gravy?
Fries, gravy, and cheese curds.
Yeah, we have that in Holland.
Oh, good, good.
Then next level with some more stuffing, but yeah, we have that in Holland.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
With
But poutine, I
with
never
donair
heard
meat's
about
so
name. That
What's
name
that?
I never heard. Poutine. I never heard that. It sounds like poutine, but
French, no?
Putain.
yeah, poutine.
Putain.
Yeah, it is French. Yeah,
Of French origin, rather.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's good. It's really good comfy food.
absolutely. You know what, guys? Just because I think I've got all my analysis out of the way that I wanted to go over, I am going to wrap up the stream here, but I will stick around and we can just hang and chat like old times here, have a drink and stuff. So, yeah, with that, I think that's about all I wanted to go over. Hopefully you guys did find this stream useful. For those of you watching this on my YouTube channel a little bit later, if you're interested in joining the MDX ALGO community and gain access to my favorite indicators on TradingView, there's a link down below which gives a 10% discount on checkout. I'm personally doing most of my trading on Blofin. It's no KYC exchange. There should be a link down below the video for that as well, for those of you who need a new non-KYC exchange or just want a backup in general. I've actually maxed out the trading fees cashback feature that they give, so you also get 20% of your trading fees back in your funding account when you sign up using my link to Blofin. So with that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.